Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Once again, I'm excited to have an amazing guest on. We've been so blessed with some amazing people, and today is no different. We have Dan Young on today. Thank you for being here with us, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. I do need to give a shout out to our sponsor. I want to thank Veracity Networks for their support. They've really helped launch this, and we are trending on iTunes now, and we've got some good traction. So thank you as well, listeners, for your support. You're going to be inspired today. I've got an amazing guy on who lives his life with passion. A little background, you guys are going once I say this, you're going to know who Dan is. He's the CEO and founder of PC Laptops. He's Dan, the laptop man, right?
Yep.
Where we love you, you know, and many of you have seen his commercials. He's been on for how long? How long has that been going?
About 29 years now.
29 years. That is impressive, man. Mm-hmm. I love, because I've done some research, and I love the way you live your life. And one of the things I came across is a saying that you've said before is be crazy enough to know that you can do anything in life. And then also how you help people find their pains and then help them find the solution to get through it. That's kind of your motto with all your businesses and that kind of thing. And you've been through some trials and tribulations as a younger Dan. Yes. And I want to get into that as well. So
cool. Thanks
for joining us, man.
Appreciate the invite.
So let's start off. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, a little bit about your family. I know your parents are from China originally, and let's kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles, California. My parents were immigrants from China and didn't speak any English. And they ended up in Southern California. My dad got a job with the U.S. Army designing pamphlets.
Oh, really?
And while he was also a janitor as well for General Motors. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California, and quite an interesting lifestyle out there, being a teenager.
Yeah, do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have a brother and then also a sister. Yeah.
Okay. And how was it living in Southern California? Did you have a hard time because you didn't speak English or was your parents that didn't?
My parents didn't speak English.
You did though. You were raised speaking English. Okay.
They were from China, and the interesting thing is they didn't allow us to speak Chinese in the home. And if you look at my last name spelling, Young, first name Dan, my dad said, I don't want anyone to be able to tell where your origin is from.
Oh, really?
Based on how you speak and how they see your name. Because that way you're going to be able to bust through all the barriers with your excellence, right? And not have people prejudge. Because coming out of, they came out of World War II and they came, to America. There was a lot of stigma going on. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting that he taught you that at a young age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about that. What are kind of the philosophies of your parents? What were some of the things that they taught you growing up, and some of the things that you kind of carry over even to this day that you've learned from them?
The definition of success is a big one that my dad taught me. He said, success is doing your best and learning from your screw ups.
Right.
And he said, coming to America, and this is not necessarily a super popular opinion, but he said, coming to America as immigrants, we have to be Americans, and we have to not take any special handouts, privileges, anything. We have to be excellent.
Right.
And again, that was his mantra. So he made sure that, we spoke very good English and really socialized well into the system. So it was pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool, because it sounds like he was really trying to teach you guys, hey, let's be disciplined enough so we can have the best, opportunity to be successful in what we do here in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Well, obviously you're a huge success in what you've been doing. Again, people who follow you would understand this. You're a creator. You're an entrepreneur. You've got a podcast now. You've owned many, many businesses that have made lots of money. And you've just been a really huge success. So it sounds like that started getting instilled in you as a young kid.
Yeah, all the shenanigans of my younger years, that was really the foundation of learning how to run companies and start companies and negotiate and help find people's pains and heal them.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about some of the pains you went through if you as a teenager. I know you got caught up in some issues there. Let's talk about that and just, let our listeners know what you went through.
Yeah, so I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I went to a school called Birmingham High School in Van Nuys, California. And it was kind of a lower middle class school, But what happened is they started to do busing. So they wanted to kind of have integration from kids in like really tough neighborhoods, and so they would bus them in. So they installed metal detectors and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Had cops full time at the school.
Wow.
And I started getting beat up all the time. We would get jumped by gang members and just beaten on continuously. And so what I did is this, and I asked my dad about it. I'm like, well, what should I do? He's like, well, find out what their pains are, and see if you can help them.
Oh, interesting.
And so he said, you should go buy some hamburgers for some of these kids. So what happened was we had a little McDonald's down across the street of school, And so I found the leaders of the largest gangs that attended the school, and I bought them McDonald's hamburgers. And I said,
Really?
just tell me your story, man. It was like a virtual podcast of the day,
Wow, yeah.
But there was no podcast of the day.
Right, yeah.
And what was really cool is I was walking home with some of my friends, and we got jumped. And about 15 guys just started beating us. And this huge crowd of like 65 gangsters came over and beat the crap out of these guys. They're beating the crap at us.
Oh, okay.
And afterwards, I thought there was more bad people coming to attack us. And afterwards, this guy, his street name was Vamp. And he was the head of this gang called Pacoima Flats. He said to me, I appreciate that burger, man. You're a good dude.
Wow.
He said, I just didn't want to see you guys get, beaten like that. He goes, you'll never have to worry about getting beaten again.
Really?
Yeah.
And how old were you at this time?
At this time, I was about 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 years old.
Wow.
So that's how I learned a little bit of negotiating skill. And by offering kindness, the universe reciprocates.
Yeah.
And that one maybe saved my life. So
It sounds like it.
yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Did you, in those moments, before that happened, where you got rescued by that other group because of what you've done, were you fighting back, or were you just mainly trying to just protect yourself and hope the beating doesn't continue to last?
I can fight fairly well. I can hold my own. My parents, since I was little, they sent me to take jiu-jitsu and also Muay Thai kickboxing. So, in a one-on-one engagement, it was usually not a problem. But when you have a whole crowd attacking you, there's not much you can really do.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So knowing that your dad it sounds like your dad is a very wise man, because some of the stuff already that you've talked about. So he's teaching you to actually do an act of kindness to someone in order to break down kind of that tough exterior and to get to what they're really maybe dealing with.
exactly. In fact, that's what he did in China. People were being killed in the streets during the war, and the American soldiers came in, and my dad and his friends brought them food. And the American soldiers said, hey, if you kids need anything, we got your back.
Really?
And that actually helped facilitate his immigration to the U.S. By helping these American soldiers. And so they protect him. The enemy was literally poisoning the food that the kids were eating, and the teenagers and the families out there, and just raping and pillaging. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing the same thing,
Right.
the American soldiers really took them under their wings, and life got really good.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because your dad learns this and then he teaches it to you.
Yeah, so kindness, finding people's pains. And the pain of the American soldiers were crappy rations, right? And so they would, cook and put together some, get them some good food and some things like that. So, yeah.
Well, I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but,
Okay.
like in your commercials, you always end it with "We love you."
Mm-hmm.
And, what did that stem from? Is this part of, that seems pretty genuine when you do that as well. You're not just saying that.
Yes, and I teach our team members, when you're looking at somebody, you're not there really to sell them something. You're there to discover what their pains are, what their inconvenience are, what's causing them, stress, or if like they have a business, can you help them be more productive, right?
Right.
And so when we say we love you, when we're talking to somebody, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm scanning for those pains they have, and I'm saying to myself, I care about this person, I love this person.
Right.
And another thing my dad taught me, he said, you know why Chinese people bow to each other? And I'm like,
Yeah, I have no
why?
idea. Yeah.
You know, and he goes, well, it's because the deity in me is acknowledging the deity in you.
Interesting.
So, you know, all of us, no matter how much money we have, whether we're broke or rich or whatever, we're, you know, very powerful beings. And so when we bow, we're acknowledging the existence of another powerful being.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I had no. That's very cool. Wow, that's awesome. So so you go through. You're 14 years old, and you learn this really powerful lesson by helping out. But as you go through, high school and stuff, I know you went through some other struggles. Let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I started hanging around with a lot of these gang members, buying lots of hamburgers.
Yeah.
But another saying is from Dad is you can't wrestle with a pig and not get dirty.
Yeah.
And so they started rubbing off on me a little bit. These guys were really cool. One of them's like, hey, let me introduce you to some girls. You have a girlfriend. And hey, you could borrow my car. And Dan, here's some money. You're a good kid. Here's a couple $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And these things. And so it started really rubbing off on me, and the lifestyle got kind of rough. I actually kind of, started hanging out with these guys and picking up a lot of their traits. And that's where things, really escalated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that I know you had, if it's okay to talk about, you struggled with some substance abuse issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did that start in high school, or was that afterwards, or when did that happen in your life?
Well, it's hanging around with these guys, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, have some of this, have some of that, and first it started with alcohol and things, and then, things progressed, and really, it didn't seem like a big deal at first, right?
Right.
But it became more just a normal part of a daily routine after a while. And so, that's how that kind of stuff started.
Yeah. How long did you struggle through that? I mean, when, you're going through this through high school, did your dad know that you were going through this, and your mom?
No.
Did they know what was up?
No, they didn't think there was any problem with that. I didn't think there was any problem with that, but
okay.
In fact, I didn't have any like real health issues or things like that. But the thing I noticed like post is that it turned off my compassion, and it turned off my caring as much.
Right.
It almost just turned off all the emotions, right?
Yeah, right.
And it turned off the fear too.
Yeah.
As well. And so it was pretty enticing. It's like, wow, you could feel great on top of the world and not really be having anxiety about things and all that. It was like an insta-cure. So
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get to a point where you decided, or how did you move on from that, and how did you get past that?
So it all culminated to a pretty tragic event. A bunch of these guys I was hanging out with got in a altercation with a bunch of these other guys, right?
Right.
And turned out a lot of people got injured and things like that. And I went to juvenile hall for quite a while. And in juvenile hall, it was a pretty large conflict that happened. So, for quite some time, I was alone in a room in solitary while they were trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
And at that was like insta detox.
Sure.
You feed you eat what they feed you.
Yeah, right.
So all I could really do is go exercise and study, and cleared my head.
Yeah, sure.
And then when it was all done and said, what was interesting is I got out, and the judge said, Dan, actually, you didn't actually do anything. You were just in the proximity of these bad people. And so he said, we're going to give you actually a little bit of money for the inconvenience because we didn't really go through the correct process. And so give us a tiny bit, a little bit,
right.
a few $1,000.
Sure.
And that's when my sister said, hey, I'm an academic advisor at the University of Utah. You should come up here because it's good living, clean living, and
right.
and Utah's great. So why don't you move in with me and make some new friends? And that's when I came here.
And then did you struggle when you came up here too, or were you kind of in the mindset of, okay, I've got to kind of lead a different path?
My head was super clear when I got here.
Right.
I mean, I hadn't felt so clear in a few years,
Yeah.
And so when I got here, it was wonderful. Went to Highland High School, here, and it was great. I've never been a great student academically,
Right.
but it was great. All the people were nice here, super kind.
Yeah.
All the locals in Utah, the majority of people in Utah are good people.
Right.
So it was really cool. Everyone was just warm and accepting, and I told them my story, and they were still warm and accepting. And so it was like, wow,
It's cool.
this
yeah.
is cool. Yeah,
It's a good place.
Yeah.
So when did you, realize that you really loved like computers and let's talk a little bit about that
Oh,
story
yeah.
because how you started PC Laptops is actually a really cool story.
So I got into computers when I was like 5.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, my cousin Victor had a computer, and he would let me play video games on it a little bit. And then after school, in elementary school, there was a guy named Charles, and he set up a computer training camp. He says, they have these basketball camps, boys and girls clubs and things. But for those that are kind of nerdy, he selected about 30 students who could come to this center he rented, and he taught us how to program computers and that. And that was, before I went into the kind of bad teenage years.
Yeah.
But that stuck in my head, right? So I told myself, maybe I have a knack for computing, right? So fast forward a little bit, I got a job at Radio Shack in the mall, right? Fashion Place Mall.
Radio Shack. Yeah.
Selling electronics and computers and different things like that,
Yeah.
and got a lot of experience there. And when I was at Radio Shack, this old guy comes in. He's like, you are the most helpful person helping me find electronic parts. And I asked him, what do you do? He goes, well, why don't we go have lunch in the food court? And so I got to know this guy, a really cool guy. And I asked, so what do you do? And he said, well, I'm like, just tell me what you do, man. He's like, well, I was a computer engineer guy before, and I sold my company for $270 million.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of retired, and I'm kind of a hobbyist, and I work with electronics and things like that. He's like, if you want, I could mentor you and kind of show you kind of how I did it. And so about once a week, he'd come down
Really?
and buy me a lunch.
Really?
Yeah, and he'd just show me how to do things,
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
That is way cool. And I mean, did you ever feel like, why is this guy doing this in the beginning? Like, is this for real? Or did it feel
Not
pretty genuine?
really, because I was always helping. This is the guy who'd come to the store for 2 hours and ask me all these
Oh,
questions
gotcha.
and what do I
Okay.
need for this and that.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to reciprocate. He's
Yeah.
like, can I buy you? Can I tip you? And we can't take tips working at Radio Shack. He's
Right.
like, how about can I buy you some Chinese food in the food court? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'll eat
Yeah,
that,
that'll work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was nice.
So that mentoring led to what from that point?
So he said, you've outgrown Radio Shack. He's like, Dad, and how much you making here? I'm like, $17,500 a year. He's like, that's peanuts. You need to do some higher level sales. So I got a job at this place called Silo, which is like a Best Buy type of thing.
Right.
And I was there. When I got there, there was 5,000 salespeople, and I was the worst. I was in the lowest 4,700 or something.
Really?
Terrible salesman, really, compared to the people there.
Uh-huh.
But what was pretty cool is I thought about my dad's hamburger thing again. And so I looked at the top 3 performers in the company and took them all to lunch, right? I said, can you guys show me how you do it? And they're like, yeah, if you buy his hamburgers.
Yeah.
And
Right.
within 90 days, I was the number 1 salesperson there and held it for 6 years out of 5,000 salespeople,
That's amazing.
which was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So then they went out of business, though. They were owned by this European company. They went out of business, and my manager said, hey, man, do you want your customer database of everyone you sold computers to? In fact, we can just give you everyone who's bought a computer here. He's like, because we're gone.
You're like, yeah.
So I cold called all these people, and I said, hey, if you bought a computer here, I'd honor your warranty. Here's my pager number. You just beat me,
Pager.
and I'll come out, and I'll help you with any sort of labor. And so I went out, and did this. I burnt through all the savings that I had. I had a little over $20,000 I'd saved up. I burnt through all that. But the next year, we did over $1 million in revenue.
Unbelievable.
So early 90s. So pretty
Right.
cool. It's fun.
So was that the formation of PC Laptops at that time, or was that still something else and then that came later?
That was PC Laptops.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Just
how
out
it
of my
all
house,
Right.
pager, car, on site.
Yeah. So, what is your philosophy with PC Laptops? Let's talk about that because, you're a very passionate person. You got a lot of energy. I know you look at yourself as like a creator. You create what you want, and I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I love that because I try to instill that in my own clients. It's like, you're in charge of your life. and kind of show them how to do that. So let's talk about kind of like your philosophy, maybe not just at PC Laptops, but in life in general.
Yeah. I think some of the most important things as far as creation, though, is just getting out of your head and onto paper or on your phone and your notes or something.
Yeah.
And that's what that mentor showed me how to do, is set physical, financial, and spiritual goals and timelines and deadlines. And the big one was timelines and deadlines to be able to hit those goals.
Yeah. Okay. So, and had you done that before you had met him? Did you ever learn that from your parents or anything like that, like setting goals and things like that?
No, in fact, my parents weren't financially, that strong. They're good humans.
Sure.
But we were so poor when I was young, though, we literally had to, my mom, I remember her crying. We had to count change in the laundry room to try to get food and stuff. I mean, it was pretty big struggle.
Right. Tough times. So, what are one of the things that someone would expect when they come into a PC Laptop store? I mean, a lot of people in Utah have been there.
Yeah.
But what would they expect to see and hear and feel as they come into there?
We talk about engaging the five senses. All humans have five senses: the sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. And so when people come in, we want to make sure we engage those senses in a positive way, right? Temperature is good. Music is good. You're being greeted. You're treated well. Your hand is shaken, And then we truly try to, again, we dig right into finding out what your pains are and maybe how we can assist you.
Right.
So it goes quickly into that.
But that's a pretty unique philosophy. I don't think you get that anywhere else. What are your pains?
Yeah.
What's really causing you discomfort right now?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what we can do to fix that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of basically it?
That's the theory in all of our companies.
Yeah.
So we have a big online company called Zydex, which is actually bigger than PC Laptops.
Oh, okay.
And we do I do a lot of commercial property development as well. And then we also have a cloud backup company and a bunch of crazy stuff. But that philosophy transfers into all companies. It could transfer into anyone's business.
Anyone's business. Mm-hmm. It's funny when I was telling people here that, hey, guess who I'm having on today, And I said, yeah, it's Dan Young from PC Laptops. And there's 4 people here who have your computer.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're like, hey, if he wants to come see what I bought from him, he's upstairs in my office,
Wow.
And everyone was like so excited that you were coming because, again, I've been in your stores before, and you do leave there feeling like, wow, these people care. Almost like I wasn't planning on buying a computer, but I bought one anyways.
Yeah,
you just have that feeling of like, hey, these guys, there's trust there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's the big thing because, in retail the computer business is very competitive.
Yeah.
And people can go online and order stuff and that. But the idea is to offer so much value as far as the personal care. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're charging for. Because, people can build their own computers and save a few bucks or whatever they want, or go to Costco, whatever.
Right.
But the idea is, what are their problems? What do they need taken care of? And then, take care of them forever for that. Not give them a bill for the service.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's expensive.
For sure. Yeah. That's great. Let's talk a little bit about, you have, it's called Dan's Millionaire Code. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what that is and why you created that.
At first it was about a way to mass mentor and solve people's pains without fee. And so I said, I have another mentor. His name is John Pestana.
I know John.
Guy, yeah.
I actually know John.
Yeah, and John's done really well. And he said, I like to spend a certain amount of time every week that I give back. And he goes, are you dedicating a certain amount of time where you're giving back?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and the one-on-ones are okay, but it's hard, one person at a time.
Yeah.
And so what I did is made Dan's Millionaire Code podcast share what I know and also what a lot of experts know that have literally built, some of them billion-dollar organizations from nothing.
Right.
And these are people that weren't born wealthy or anything like that. They come from tough situations, a lot of people. And I was like, how can I do that? Now, it was a dabble in the beginning, but I received a message on Instagram from a guy that said, hey, man, my kid's been diagnosed with terminal cancer. I've been drinking a lot and doing drugs and this stuff, and I got fired from my job and all this stuff. And I'm like, great, he's going to bug me for money,
Right.
And I'm like, well, here, do this. Like I said, read this book, Think and Grow Rich, and write me a 1-page report. And then the next day, 2 days later, he had this 1-page report. And so I started giving him task assignments. And fast forward like a year later, he's back with his wife. he was able to get better medical care for his son. So his son is actually not terminally. He's not terminal.
Oh, really?
With the cancer they thought
Wow.
he had. He's got a great job now. He's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year within a year. And he said,
Wow.
"Man, you saved my life." I'm like, "No, you saved your life, man."
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my wife about that. She says, "Maybe you should do this more." So I'm like, "Well, all right, let's do it more. It's fun." And it's fun because there's so much great knowledge out there. And what I found though, that most of these people that do really well, that have very large amounts of money, they don't need really more money. They do it because they love what they do.
Right.
But they all dedicate more and more time to give back.
Right.
And a lot of these guys and girls haven't told their story. And so it's a way for them to get started too.
Wow, that's beautiful. What a great story. And it's neat. I love what you said is how much time during the week are you actually giving back? And I think we should all ask ourselves that question, because I think a lot of times we get absorbed with us and it's all about me and I got to do this, I got to do that. But how much time do we spend helping someone else get to where they may need to be?
There's a rule for that though.
Okay.
Is, I was saying you can't, if you had a 400-pound personal trainer and you were trying to lose weight, it's probably not the person, right?
Right.
If you had a financial advisor who was dead broke, they can't.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of people like that. And really, so my advice is you got to help yourself first. You really need to help yourself first before you can help anyone else.
Okay.
Then you can help your family, right? Those that you really love that are close, right? And then you can help your friends and other people like that.
Yeah, right.
Going outwards. But it's all got to start with the example.
Yeah.
Because that proves a template, a track record, right?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I tell my clients, you can't lift someone to higher ground unless you're standing there yourself.
Correct.
And sometimes that takes a minute to get yourself into that position. So that's beautiful. So, growing up, I mean, I'm really impressed with the stories even about your dad and how some of the things he's taught you. What would you say is maybe the most important lesson you've learned from your parents? If you're looking back, I know that's a big question because you've learned a lot, but
the big lesson is the more that you give without expectation, the more that the universe will reciprocate.
yeah,
And because I believe that all people are selfish in a way, even if they say, "Look, I'm doing this." I mean, the smallest thing that you'll get, probably the biggest thing actually, but it's not monetary, is you're giving, and when you give, you feel good.
right,
You get that endorphin rush.
yeah,
You feel wonderful and it's natural, and it makes you want to do more of that though. So because I believe, all humans are really motivated by pain and pleasure. And just because if it's not monetary though, people still get that rush.
right,
Otherwise they wouldn't do it, right?
right,
So nothing is selfless. I think, and I believe that all people suffer from WIFM, what's in it for me syndrome, right?
right,
All people suffer from WIFM. It's just how's that, and it's not bad actually to make yourself feel good by doing good things.
right, yeah. Because I really think if we didn't feel good when we did that, probably we wouldn't do it. So I agree with you. Ultimately, we're doing it because it feels good.
Yeah.
It does feel good to help someone else. There's just no way around that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the beauty of it, is especially when we're in a position of influence. And I think I look at you and a lot of people, I mean, you've got a lot of eyes looking at you. You've been an influence in Utah, especially for years. And that's what I'm saying. I'm really impressed on how you live your life with that passion and that drive and the love you have for people. And again, that's why you probably say that on all your commercials and ads.
It's just self-therapy though, because we all have our demons, our little angel and devils on our shoulders,
Right.
Yeah. I always tell myself it's a way to try to reciprocate and pay back for all the bad things I did.
Right.
Try to redeem yourself.
Yeah.
For all the stupid things.
No, that's a good point. It's a really good point. If one of our listeners is hearing your story right now and maybe they're in a position where they feel stuck, maybe they've lost their job, maybe they've, they're just trying to find their way in this world and they've got a goal or a dream, but they just have never been able to figure this out. If they're stuck right now, what's some advice that maybe you could give them that they can maybe even start implementing immediately?
The first thing is, if people are stuck, is just take full responsibility and just understand all pain is self-inflicted. Where you are, you've chosen to be there in most cases. I know that there's extreme situations, but
sure.
But if you have sound mind, right? If your mind is there,
right,
you can take action, right? You can take some sort of action to get to the outcome that you want. And the most important thing is to find good mentors. That's the magic, because the mentors have already stepped on the landmines, so that you don't need to step on the same landmines.
Yeah.
That's the easy way. It's like but the thing is, you don't want to be an asshole. Like, you ask them for something,
Yeah.
and then you just don't do it. That's the biggest problem that people have, because plenty of people are like, hey, you know, and it's interesting. I have tons of people messaging me all day, and I'm like, do this, and they don't do it. And then they ask, well, what else can I do? And I'm like, do this. It's like Karate Kid. Daniel's son, wax on, wax off. You got to do the fence first, and then we'll go into the advanced.
Yeah.
Just to see if they'll actually do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, you know, even with a lot of clients I work with, is they get this awareness. They understand, here's what I've got to do. So the awareness is now there, but then they do nothing with the awareness.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they're still stuck in doing the same irrational, unhealthy belief patterns and behavior patterns, you know? So I love what you said there. That's great advice. What are some of the things you're doing now that maybe you could share with our listeners? Like, I know you're a guy that thinks big, and, you know, do you got any new things on the horizons that you could share with us that you're working on?
Yeah. So, online is really big right now. Zydex, you know, we're doing, it's gaming computers specifically for esports.
Yeah.
And so esports now is larger than movies and everything put together now. So
That's amazing.
That's a big push, and I've actually been doing that now for over 8 years, and it's really skyrocketed.
And you're saying that's even bigger now than PC laptops?
Way bigger, because you know, we sell like workstations for government, military, developers. So that probably half the games you're playing, more than likely that, you know, it was developed on one of our computers.
Really? That's cool.
It's just amazing. That's a big one. And then there's another thing that we're doing. It's called storagewhale.com, and it's online backup for Mac or PC. That's government military grade encryption and protection.
Wow. Okay.
For consumers, and for cheap, like $6 a month. So
really?
Yeah. And something like that though normally would cost someone $1,000, $2,000 a month, you know?
Yeah, you'd think.
For that level of protection. So those are two really big ones. And then finally, real estate. I love real estate. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And that's where I've acquired a few really strong mentors that were in the tech business and have moved more into real estate as they get older, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what does a day look like for you? Like, I mean, I know you're busy with your businesses. You got a lot going on, but what do you do to, like you said we need to work on ourselves first. Mm-hmm. What do you do to work on you?
There's a template, and I call it the perfect day. It's, if people go and they look at it in Dan's Mailer Code on YouTube, you can see kind of a template of that. And each day should have a theme of what you want to accomplish. But there's rituals that need to happen during that day. And so those habits and rituals that you make your day. And so, for example, I used to be a late sleeper, right? But now I wake up at about 5:30 a.m. You wake up, first thing, drink a big glass of water. I have my goals written down on a sheet. You use the bathroom, you read those goals.
Yeah.
You look on your phone. I have a picture of all the things I want to accomplish in a little subdirectory on my phone.
Okay.
Whether it's, you know, being able to help people or buy a car or buy properties or whatever it is. I have pictures, and I look at that to make it visual, right?
Love it.
And then what I'll do after the bathroom thing is then I'll do a little bit of meditation for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I'll do a walking meditation, right? So you're getting cardio and you're getting, so we call that net time, no extra time, NET. Because you can do a couple things actually.
Yeah, okay.
Without being distracted, right?
Yeah.
And because your blood is flowing, you feel good. Every day I intermittent fast. I don't eat until usually about 1 or 2 p.m.
Okay.
Which is, and the reason being is I like to keep my mind clear, you know, in that morning.
Yeah, it's more clear when your body's not concentrating on digestion food. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it works for me, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information on the internet about intermittent
Sure,
fasting.
yeah. No, a lot of people are doing it. I know that. Yeah.
So that works pretty well. And then I schedule most of my heavy-duty number crunching and meetings and things like that between 10 and noon.
Okay.
Because you're refreshed, you're ready to go, and then your 10 to noon is where your brain is, and for most people, is very, very sharp between 10 and noon.
Right.
And then what I taught, then of course you have other stuff you can do after, but I'd like to do my relational stuff after that noon time, because that doesn't require lots of heavy mathematical thinking.
Right.
It's building relationships with clients, customers, those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
During that time. And of course, scheduling family time is really, really important. And after the kids go to sleep and those kind of things, then it's back to work actually and planning on the things that need to happen, emails and those kind of things, you know.
Gotcha.
A big mistake that a lot of people do is first thing they do when they wake up is they look at social media and work on emails and things. And
For sure.
then you're burning all your mana, right? All your
Yes.
energy, your life force
Yes.
early.
Yeah.
I usually like to do that a little later.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And you know what? I love what you're saying, because if you study people who are successful, there's usually a common thread among all of them, and they get up early and they work on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They'll meditate, they'll exercise, they'll clear their head, they will set, they'll look at their goals, exactly what you were doing, and I've incorporated that in my day as well, and it's been the greatest thing that I've ever done. And
That's
I'll
great.
tell you, it gets you, I've got this quote on my wall right behind you. It says, "The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire,"
Mm-hmm.
by Ferdinand Foch. And I really believe that. It's kind of like what you're doing is you're kind of getting yourself on fire, ready for the day, ready to tackle anything that comes your way.
Most people don't do this, right? And this is why
Yeah.
1% of the population control 99% of the resources on the planet.
Wow.
And you find that 1%, they're doing this kind of ritual, right? And the key is this, for the listeners out there to get started, get your phone out and create a schedule. Schedule it on your phone
Right.
as an appointment,
Yeah.
right? Have that whole regimen. You may have 15, 20 things on that. Wake up, use the bathroom, look at goals, right? Do all those things. But you need that to build the habit, because
Yeah.
at first, the 4 levels of competency, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but most people, they're unconsciously incompetent at first. They're just, why is my life so horrible, right? Then they realize, they go to conscious incompetency, and they realize, I'm dumb because, I'm eating too much, I'm doing drugs, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. But at least they've identified that, right?
Yeah.
Then they go to conscious competence. And that's where you schedule it, right?
Yeah.
I have to force myself to do this damn thing, right? Go to that. And then soon you go to what I call Jedi Master Yoda level, right? You go to unconscious competence, where it's natural. It's a flow state.
Yeah.
And that momentum pushes you to that next level.
Wow.
And so, but the first thing is, again, 99% of people don't have the recipe on their phone, the schedule
Right.
dialed in. And that's something that, people need to really spend on a weekend, spend 2-3 hours, just do the schedule. Just
Yeah.
do that once and force yourself to follow it as best you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's like, there it is. So I do something similar. I call it my hour of power, and it's on my phone. It's an alarm, and you open it up and it spells it all out in very, very, vivid detail.
Good.
And so I do really respect that you do that. And it doesn't surprise me, because of what you're doing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you're so successful. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's just execution,
Yeah.
right? And not giving up. So, it's executing on those rituals and be able to endure a lot of pain and not give up,
Right.
right? That endurance is really important, though,
Yeah.
because a lot of people, they feel pain and they quit. They feel pain and they quit, and they go to the next thing and the next
Right.
thing and the next thing. And that's a cycle that I used to do, right? And
Yeah.
and if you're conscious about that, you can fix that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, I love it. If you, a couple more questions here I want to ask you
Mm-hmm.
is if you could give our listeners who are hearing your story right now, a challenge. Give them a challenge right now. I know we've said a few things here that's obviously a challenge they could do, but is there anything you could challenge our listeners right now that they could do?
Yeah, like a challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
So, right now, right after this podcast,
Yeah.
take out your phone or a piece of paper, go to the notes on your phone, and write down some things you want to be at, and you got to be very specific, financially, physically, and spiritually and personal development wise. So I'll give you a quick example.
Okay.
For financial, let's say one of them is, I want to be able to save $300 a month or $500 a month or $1,000, whatever your number is, right? And what I'm going to do, the action plan is I'm going to go to Fidelity or E-Trade or somewhere like that, and I'm going to set up a brokerage account for free on my phone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to set up an auto withdrawal for whatever amount that I'm comfortable with investing in whatever I want every month, for even if it's $50, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's step one, the financial clear target. And then you say, I'm going to reoccurringly pay that investment into there every month, right? The physical goal, I'm going to move my body, right? And we can start small, 15 minutes a day,
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
Let's start there. You bring it to 20, bring it to 30, add some weights to it, right? Okay. But be very specific. Put that in your calendar. Okay, I'm going to spend 20 minutes today. I'm going to walk around my house, the neighborhood, my dog, whatever it is, right? But people have to be very specific with that again, because if you're too broad and you're not specific, you won't get it, right?
Right.
You're just kind of shooting the shotgun effect and you won't hit anything.
Yeah.
And then it's the spiritual personal development, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's spending a certain amount of time with your family, your children, or giving back per week. If you're going to give back per week, maybe you're going to go volunteer. So you put like, look, every Saturday I volunteer at this retirement home.
Right.
And I'm going to go help people, right? Or whatever it is. Schedule that in there. So after this podcast, just pick one thing in those areas.
Love it.
Schedule it on your phone and then freaking do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Love it.
Make it easy at first. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be some monumentous thing. But the biggest problem people have is I want to be fitter. I want to be skinnier. I want to be wealthier. I want to feel better mentally, get rid of my anxiety. But they're not as specific.
Yeah.
And then they never get better.
Yep. They don't.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. I know I put you on the spot with
No,
that
it's no
challenge,
problem.
but thank you. That's beautiful. Well, I want people to be able to reach out to you, and if they have a question for you, or if they're struggling, or if they want specific questions to ask you,
Sure.
what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So a few places. Instagram, I'm pretty active at Dan's Millionaire Code. Also on YouTube, if they want to watch the videos, of course, they can search Dan's Millionaire Code on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere as well.
Yeah.
Facebook, everywhere.
Sure.
Right? That's where the best place that I can respond to questions is Instagram,
Okay.
though that's the best.
So just a direct message on Instagram.
And then what I do is I send out a newsletter weekly.
Okay.
And Dan's Millionaire Code. If they subscribe to it, it's free. And one thing that people will notice, there's nothing they can buy from me as far as Dan's Millionaire Code. That's my give back.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this is why it's guaranteed to be genuine, because they can't buy anything.
Yeah.
But it's double-edged. A lot of times when they say when money transacts, people get more committed, and maybe that's true or not. But my idea is if we can just touch a few lives
Right.
and really make a big impact, get real deep in there and have them go, they'll replicate. Because I ask people to do just a few things. One, if they like the material and it helps them, right? Share it with friends and loved ones. Rate it really good on iTunes, so that,
Sure.
we can get
Right.
some more people seeing it. 2, give 10% of your financial gain from all my material, right? If it's helped you, and give it to a good charity,
Wow.
right? I like Operation Underground Railroad and Nuzzles and Co.
Yeah.
2 of those. 1 to save the dogs and cats. 2, first one to save the humans that are being trafficked and kidnapped and
Yeah.
organ harvested.
Yes.
That's a big one. So,
No, that's awesome.
but those 2 are probably the biggest ones.
Okay.
That I'd like to see people do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I'm just really impressed on how you're so into giving back. And I think it was Steve Jobs that said you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And as I'm connecting the dots backwards on your story, and we go all the way back to when you bought those guys a hamburger.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, at least, from my perspective, just sitting across from you, hearing this for the first time, how that buying of the hamburger really kind of set the stage for all of this. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm just so impressed. And what a blessing that your dad gave you that advice and you actually did it. Like you said, you're saying, guys, go do it. Do something.
Mm-hmm.
You did it. You put it to the test and you thought, wow, look what happened.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Well, it turned out good because it probably, like you said, saved your life maybe that day. You don't know.
Well, if those guys didn't save us, we might not be here. So.
That's my point. And we can laugh about it, but I really believe in those little small moments that can reap rewards for the rest of your life. And I don't know, I think that has spilled over into your philosophy at work, your philosophy at life. And I don't know, I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you were willing to come spend some time with me.
No, thanks.
I know how busy you are, and it really is an honor to have you on. I've followed you for years, and I just think the world of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, though.
Yeah. So there you go, listeners. Another amazing Belief Cast with Dan Young from PC Laptops and a bunch of whole other stuff that he does. What great advice. Please take it. Put it to the test. If you want to change your life, we've got to do something. We can't just sit and wish for it. And so, Dan, you're amazing. Thank you for rubbing shoulders with me today. And listeners, please share this with anyone and everyone that you know. Thanks for all your support. And again, Veracity Networks, thank you for your support as well. And love you guys. And Dan, love you too. Thanks so much.